Welcome into Weather Extra. Thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Jillian Johnson. We had an overall quiet week of weather across central Texas. We did ride a temperature roller coaster as we had a little bit of a warm up throughout the work week, but another cold front moved in just in time for the weekend, gifting us with another round of gorgeous fall weather. Now we're in cold front season, and these fronts have been bringing us rain over the last few months, and that rain has been helping out our drought conditions across central Texas. Throughout the summer, from June 1st through August 31st, only 0.74 inches of rain fell at the Waco Regional Airport. That total is 6.48 inches below normal for the amount of rain that should fall. The lack of rain combined with that brutal heat left majority of central Texas with extreme to exceptional drought. Here's a look back at the drought monitor from September 14th. Throughout the 30 days in September, 3.34 inches of much needed rain fell across our area. That rain started to bring little improvements to our drought monitor, knocking many areas from exceptional drought down to extreme. We've seen even more beneficial rain in October. So far this month, 1.12 inches of rain have fallen, and that rain has helped bring even more improvements to the drought. As you can see from the latest update from this past Thursday, we've started to see that large area of exceptional drought and even some of the extreme drought shrink for the northern and eastern parts of central Texas. We still have a long way to go before we get out of the drought, but it is nice to see some positive changes. Well, the same brutally hot and dry conditions we were dealing with in central Texas this summer were also felt across majority of the state, but the lack of rain has led to a few discoveries in some bodies of water. Take a look at this hidden treasure in an underwater cave on Canyon Lake north of San Antonio. It appeared due to record low water levels. It's a reservoir on the Guadalupe River, and it hit its lowest point this past August. The people who made the discovery say they heard rumors about underwater caves, and one day when they were boating, they made a discovery at the spot known as Party Cove. And a hidden shipwreck from World War I has been revealed at the bottom of the Neches River. The Texas Historical Commission says they have known about the location of the shipwreck since surveys in the 2000s. The commission says the vessel was from the U.S. Shipping Board Emergency Fleet Corporation. They also say there were nearly 40 wooden-hulled vessels from the EFC and East Texas rivers, making it one of the largest collections of World War I vessel abandonment sites in the U.S. And although we just entered fall, before you know it, we're going to be saying winter is coming. And the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration warns that El Nino is expected to be strong this upcoming winter. El Nino is the natural warming of the Pacific Ocean along the equator. And climate scientists say El Nino has the potential to upend our already wild winter weather expectations. Mike Valerio has a brief breakdown of what may be in store for us.
This year, scientists are watching a rapidly developing and strengthening El Nino event. It's a natural climate pattern, typically every 2 to 7 years, bringing warmer than average sea surface temperatures to the equatorial Pacific Ocean. That warming can influence our winter weather.
The effects of El Nino are pretty pronounced across a lot of the continent and really a lot of the world.
Dr. Daniel Swain, a UCLA climate scientist, explains El Nino is not just a Pacific story. The phenomenon typically leads to warmer and drier conditions in northern sections of the U.S., with cooler and wetter weather across southern stretches of the country. After California endured a winter of relentless atmospheric river systems, El Nino likely means more winter storms this coming January through March could be on the way.
I think there is a tilt in the odds towards a wetter than average winter, especially in southern and central California, as well as other parts of the interior southwestern U.S.
Dr. Swain adds El Nino could mean an unusually dry winter in the Pacific Northwest and Hawaii, where we've seen wildfires like the devastation in August in Lahaina. But a curveball in this year's El Nino predictions, how the abnormally warm water across the rest of the world's oceans could change how El Nino impacts us.
The global oceans outside of the El Nino zone in the tropics are also extremely warm. And so that combination is something we haven't seen before.
I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
And check this out. We're already starting to see some early season snowfall out west. 6 inches of snow fell in Utah's mountains last week. This snow comes just in time as ski resorts across the state gear up for the beginning of the season next month. Utah typically starts to see snow near the end of this month. And more snow is reported out in California too, also arriving a few weeks earlier than normal. The Mono County Tourism Agency, located in east central portion of California, reported the first snowfall of the season in Mammoth Lakes early last week. And although you just saw parts of California dealing with snow, the peak of their fire season usually runs through the rest of October. California fire officials say they've got a new tool to help them stop a wildfire before it spreads, all by using artificial intelligence. Calfire and the University of California at San Diego have teamed up and are using a massive networks of cameras across the state and AI to spot those fires early. CNN's Stephanie Elam has more on the remarkable technology.
In California, where wildfires are a constant threat, firefighters want every advantage they can get on a blaze before it becomes an inferno.
While I was asleep in bed, my phone dinged.
Cal Fire Scott Slump got that leg up while testing new technology in July, when he got a text message with a link to this. Video of a fire that started in the middle of the night, deep in the California wilderness.
The dispatch center there was not aware of the fire.
But something else was: artificial intelligence. Cal Fire, in partnership with UC San Diego's Alert California program and its network of more than 1,000 cameras across the state, is using the technology to recognize a fire early on.
The next morning, that fire would have been a fire of significance.
Instead, firefighters were dispatched immediately, knocking the blaze down before it did major damage.
So the fires that you don't hear about in the news is the greatest success of this.
These cameras are the new eyes for firefighters. These two, positioned more than 5,000 feet above sea level, can see across this massive Southern California valley. And they're really adding precision to the spotting of wildfires compared to more traditional ways like this lookout station where I'm standing. With this new AI technology, they can often spot wildfires more quickly than the human eye can. Here's how it works. Look at this image. Could you spot a fire? Probably not. But notice that red box on the right side. That's where artificial intelligence has detected a faint column of smoke.
There's nothing on that horizon. Then something appears on that horizon that wasn't there before. That could be smoke. The camera will pick that up and go, that does not look normal.
We have multiple successes of fires at night that had gone undetected, that we're able to suppress before a 911 phone call had even come into the command centers.
The pilot program worked so well that Cal Fire recently expanded it to all 21 of its dispatch centers, where an official will validate the imagery to make sure it is not just dust or clouds.
Our goal as an agency is to keep 95% of our fires at 10 acres or less. So this tool increases our ability to ensure that we're keeping those fires small.
And the AI is constantly learning. Each time a human confirms or corrects what it detects, the technology adapts.
Do you think that it's making a difference in how you're able to protect the population?
Absolutely.
This technology won't replace people, Cal Fire says.
Nothing can take the place of the boots on the ground.
But can help first responders stop fires before they explode.
In my opinion, save lives and property.
Stephanie Elam, CNN, Riverside County, California.
Welcome back to Weather Extra. New dramatic aerial and drone videos from Brazil capture the scale of devastation from a drought that's hit the country's northern Amazonas region. Riverside communities in the Brazilian Amazon have been struggling to access water and food supplies due to the severe drought that has affected several states in the north and northeast of the country. The Amazon has started to see great impacts on its rich river systems, the life support for communities that live nearby. According to reports, some 111,000 people have been affected in the region where fishing is a major source of survival. Brazil's Civil Defense Agency has warned that drought could eventually impact up to 500,000 people in the Amazon. Many communities are isolated due to the rivers being their main form of transportation. And we're also looking at a major drought that's threatening one of the world's most important shipping routes. 40% of global cargo traffic passes through the famed Panama Canal. It connects the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, saving time and billions of dollars by allowing ships to avoid sailing around the tip of South America. CBS's senior national and environmental correspondent Ben Tracy went to the canal to see how a lack of rainfall has created a crisis that could affect American consumers.
The Panama Canal is one of the world's most successful shortcuts. About $270 billion of trade each year rides on this ribbon of water, leaving very little room for error.
Panama is the route.
Boris Moreno is the canal's vice president of operations.
I've never walked across the Panama Canal.
Yeah, it's an experience.
He says 2/3 of canal traffic is either coming from or going to the United States. But that flow of goods is now at risk because this 50-mile-long system of locks and lakes that connects two oceans is actually above sea level and doesn't run on ocean water.
No, it's fresh water. From our lake, Gatun Lake, that's man-made.
And so you are reliant on rainfall.
Yes.
And generally in Panama, that happens.
It's one of the wettest countries in the world. But this year has been an unprecedented dry season. Our lake levels are close to the minimum.
Severe drought is drying up the lakes that feed the canal, plunging water levels so low they've had to cut the number of vessels passing through from 36 to 32 per day, delaying goods and creating a growing waiting room of ships out at sea. Some vessels are also being forced to carry up to 40% less cargo and slow down so they don't hit bottom.
Now we are really looking for fresh water.
Ricarte Vasquez Morales is the canal's administrator.
The Panama Canal uses about 2.5 times the amount of water a city of the size of New York uses every day.
Every day? Wow.
Moving a single ship through the locks takes 55 to 125 million gallons of water, depending on its size. Much of that is flushed into the ocean, but the Canal Authority is now trying to store and reuse as much of it as possible. It's considering diverting water from other rivers and building more reservoirs because the lakes feeding the canal are also the main source of drinking water for nearby Panama City.
How concerned are you about the long-term viability of the Panama Canal?
That is my main concern. We are climate dependent. So this issue of climate change to us is real.
Climate change is making the tropics hotter and dry spells longer.
Here comes the rain.
Here comes the rain.
It's currently Panama's wet season, but except for this sudden downpour, we saw very little rain.
Well, for us, it's very concerning.
Antonio Dominguez is a managing director for shipping giant Maersk, the largest single user of the canal. He's worried Christmas merchandise could be impacted if the drought drags on, and shippers are forced to use longer routes.
So the things we buy are going to be more expensive if this whole operation slows down.
More expensive, and they will be late.
Are you seeing climate change impacting your operations around the world?
Everywhere. Everywhere you have climate change impacting global commerce, and we need to do something about it.
The international shipping industry is part of the problem, responsible for about 3% of planet-warming greenhouse gas emissions, about as much as Japan. Maersk is aiming to cut its emissions in half by 2030.
Your industry is a big contributor to climate change.
Yes.
Climate change is making a drought like this worse.
Yeah.
Do you have a responsibility to address this problem?
Of course, we need to move faster. It's not a time to start wondering what to do. It's a time for action. Time for action is now.
Because in shipping lanes like the Panama Canal, time is also money.
Ben Tracy, CBS News.
Parts of the nation, including the state of Texas, got to witness an annular solar eclipse Saturday. And coming up after the break, Brady Taylor chatted one-on-one with an eclipse expert from NASA to learn more about Saturday's eclipse and the total solar eclipse that arrives in April of next year. The conversation is coming up next.
Dr. Sterling, before we get too far into it, how excited are you and your colleagues at NASA about having 2 eclipses occur within about a 6-month time span?
Well, it's really cool. You know, we get excited about them too, and it's kind of a mixed setup because you're excited about it, but then if you're planning to do something with it, it can also be a little bit well, you know, you're getting ready for a big event and you only have a very short amount of time to do it in, and so there's excitement, there's tension, adrenaline. It's an interesting mixture.
Well, people have heard of eclipses, and you know, a lot of folks are getting attention on the total eclipse. For folks that don't know, what exactly is an annular eclipse?
basically, an eclipse is when one celestial body falls into the shadow of another body. So in this case, the Earth will fall into the shadow of the moon. If that full shadow lands on the Earth, as it will in 2024, you will get a total eclipse, because that means that if you're standing under that shadow, well, that means that the moon is blocking out the sun totally. So that's a total eclipse. But the distance between the moon and the Earth varies a little bit with each orbit of the moon. So sometimes the moon is a little bit further than average away from the Earth. When the moon is toward the far end of its orbit away from Earth and comes between the sun and the Earth, that shadow does not quite reach the Earth. So what this means is that the moon will not fully cover the sun. It will almost cover it, but it will leave a bright rim of the sun still visible. And so it looks like an annulus, just a circle, just the rim of a circle. And so that's what it looks like. So it's like this bright rim with the inside of the sun completely blacked out by the moon. So that is an annular eclipse. Now let's go to the total eclipse. During this, it's dramatically different, actually, even from an annular eclipse, the total eclipse is. So you begin in the same way. The moon is taking chunks and chunks out of the full disk of the sun, but then the moon will cover the last bit of the bright sun. And during this last bit, you can get some phenomena. With your eclipse glasses, you can see just the broken up limb of the sun, that the little bit that's not yet covered up. And that's, it's broken up because a little bit of the sun is shining through just a few valleys along the moon's limb edge. And those are called Bailey beads. And then after that, the moon will continue to move over the disk of the sun, and these Bailey beads will only be there a few seconds before there's just one left. And that can be just like a very bright final light of the sun shining through some deep valleys in the moon, along the edge of the moon. And around the rim, you see, you can start to see the glow of the outer atmosphere of the sun, called the corona. And that is called the diamond ring effect, because it looks like that last bit of light that's shining through the valleys is like a diamond, and the rest of the surrounding faintly glowing atmosphere is like the ring. But then for the next 3 or 4 minutes, depending where you're at, the moon will completely cover the bright part of the sun. And then it's just incredibly dramatic if you're I think if you're a human being and if you're even an animal, apparently, because animals actually react to it too, because they aren't expecting it to get night, and to get night that rapidly and at that time of the day. But for us humans, you can see a part of the sun that you do not ever see in your normal life.
Welcome back to Weather Extra. We turn now to an icon of the American West, the bison. 60 billion bison once roamed North America before being hunted to the brink of extinction. CBS's Adam Yamaguchi reports on the efforts to reintroduce this majestic animal to Native American territory.
At the Fort Peck Indian Reservation in Montana, a bison calf just a few hours old is the newest member of one of the first herds to roam these Assiniboine and Sioux lands in more than a century.
This must be really special for you.
My generation never got to grow up around buffalo. Now my children and my grandchildren are able to witness them being on our homelands.
Robbie Magnan manages the Fort Peck Reservation's Fish and Game Department, overseeing a bison herd started more than 20 years ago that has now grown to 800.
See, look,
Oh yeah, the calf is up. Wow.
She's ready to move.
That was fast. Wow.
That's Mother Nature's way to getting them moving right quick.
The Fort Peck Buffalo Program is part of a project to reintroduce bison to tribal lands throughout the country, using animals from Yellowstone National Park. The herd at Yellowstone is near its regulated capacity, and due to brucellosis, a bacterial disease that can infect and lead to stillbursts in cattle, bison are not protected outside the park. So the only way bison are able to leave Yellowstone is by completing an up to 3-year quarantine that culminates at the testing facility in Fort Peck.
This morning, we're going to lure the buffalo to our running alleys.
So corralling 76 head of buffalo.
Unwilling buffalo. Come on, follow me. We're going to try to get them down there. Come on, move it! You guys can't give them time to see.
Nice. There you go. Wow.
This way it's supposed to go. Got it!
The quarantine program has protected hundreds of animals from slaughter and reintroduced bison to 24 tribes across 12 states. But advocates say it is unnecessary since cattle have never contracted brucellosis from wild bison.
I feel sad when there are animals in the corral system, and buffalo stress out very easily. But in order to save your life, I gotta do this. And then I don't feel so bad. I know what I'm doing is gonna be for the greater good.
And then after today, it's 6 more months, 1 more test, and then
they're done.
Freedom.
Right.
For Eye on America, Adam Yamaguchi at the Fort Peck Indian Reservation.
Well, that's all we have for you on this episode of Weather Extra. We'll see you again next weekend. Goodbye.